right, so I wanted to start with a land acknowledgement today. I would like to acknowledge the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi. It is the territory on which We Spark Health Institute sits and where we are fortunate to be delivering this workshop from. I commit to the lifelong learning, both personally and professionally, of becoming a better ally and advocating against all forms of discrimination. And personally, this includes reflecting on how to meaningfully contribute to reconciliation. For your best experience today, I'll just ask that you mute your mic. You can keep your video on, actually, and then use the chat to leave a comment or a question, and we can get to that during the Q&A. For those of you who are new to We Spark, we are an innovative partnership between Hotel Dieu Grace Healthcare, St. Clair College, the University of Windsor, and Windsor Regional Hospital that brings together health research strengths, expertise, and infrastructure from across Windsor, Essex. And there are many ways that we can, we want to support you. If you have a research project that you need help recruiting for, we can put it on our research registry. If you have an idea you want to move forward, you can present at a think tank. And we also have a Red Cap expert, Kyle Lago, who can help with any data management solutions. And if you're not a member already, Ryan's going to put a link in the chat to join us. We'd love to have you as part of our research community. And so I wanted to start today with reminding you, or if you're not aware, on our website, we have a whole knowledge translation section. And the KT, or Knowledge Translation Committee, has put together this KT cycle of different ways we can support you throughout your KT planning process. And that ranges from, an introduction perspective. I have a KT 101 workshop. We have some other tools on the website. For KT planning, I offer KT consultations if you may be putting together a KT plan for a grant or wanting to really think through what the best strategy is to disseminate your research findings. For KT development, we have other workshops like the infographic workshop, but you also have access as a We Spark member to our student volunteer network who can help you in creating different KT products. In terms of implementation, we're more than happy to share your KT products on our website, share on social media or in newsletters. And then finally, something we're building now is how to support you in evaluating your KT. So our goals today, this is really an introductory high-level workshop. I have a brief presentation at the beginning, and then I really wanted to bring a group of panelists together to talk about their experience. So we'll do a bit of an introduction to concepts. I'll provide you some hopefully tangible tools to help, how to approach involving the community in research, and then we'll hear from our panelists. And this is a bit of an overview. So yeah, again, some definitions, some principles, and then at the end, I'm really excited to have Ryan Palazzolo here to introduce We Spark's new Engage program, which fits in perfectly with what we're talking about today. And so, you may wonder, why are we talking about community engagement at a knowledge translation workshop? And really, I wanted to bring it back to who is knowledge translation for? And it really comes back to our knowledge user. And I have a list of examples here, but the knowledge user is anyone who's using your research findings to make informed decisions. And a knowledge user, as we'll talk about shortly, can have varied levels of engagement throughout your research timeline. And so, that could be a knowledge user, could be another researcher, it could be a clinician or another type of healthcare practitioner, or it could be really the general public using your research findings to make decisions. And our first definition is what I titled our workshop, Community Engaged Research. And the CDC defines it as the process of working collaboratively with and through groups of people affiliated by geographic proximity, special interest, or similar situations to address issues affecting the well-being of those people. And so really what I want us to think of when I use the word community, it's really an umbrella term for different knowledge user groups within our local community to work with you on research projects. And something I want to focus specifically on today is the community-based participatory research. And you might see that as CBPR throughout the presentation. But again, it focuses on that collaborative approach to research that equitably involves all partners in the research process and recognizes the unique strengths that each brings. And, it could begin with a research topic of importance to that particular community to combine knowledge and action to achieve social change, improve outcomes, and eliminate health disparities. So just to clarify, CBPR, or community-based participatory research, is a type of community-engaged research. There are many types, but it's not a research method in and of itself, but it's more of an approach. And the reason why I bring this up today at this introductory workshop is it's really how the approach WeSpark is taking to support you in your efforts to include community members in your research. So there's a great paper from 2013 that talks about principles of CBPR. And what I love about this paper is the other column is what could you do to put this principle into practice. And there are 10 principles, and I'll add the chart and the reference on our website for you to refer back to. But it's really 10 steps, I would call it, or 10 ways or how to think about including the community in a meaningful way. So for example, principle 1, recognize, distinguish, and respect the community as a unique and vital partner in the research process. And so what could you do to put that principle into practice? Define community given the scope of the project, set in place a formal process for identifying and defining community at the beginning. The next principle is to listen to, learn from, and identify what each partner brings to the process. You want to be transparent. You want to build in opportunities for people to have a voice throughout the project. You don't want to assume what someone's expertise is. You want to enable fairness and equality at each step of the research process. So you want to know, how are you going to address each other? First names, or are you going to refer to with different titles? And developing a structured way to check in with all group members. Principle 4, ensuring all partners learn, grow, and share throughout the process. You want to routinely check in to see what their needs are, and then make sure you're disseminating that information back to everyone. Principle 5 is working towards a balance between research and action so that all partners benefit. You want to lay out those expectations and be transparent from the beginning and really figure out why is each member involved in this project. The next one, know local and relevant health problems. So, to form those meaningful relationships, which really comes down to working with the community, is seeking out, the history of the current conditions from different leaders within that community, and then go into the process understanding that interconnectedness. Principle 7, building that flexibility, feedback, and compromise. So see where each partner can be flexible, establish structured feedback loops. Principle 8 is sharing the findings and lessons learned with all partners in meaningful ways. So I think this really goes back to that why this and KT are so closely linked, because you want the sharing of information to be meaningful to that particular community. So that could include, providing ready access to the findings in clear language, or encouraging those community partners to feel invested in that data and those findings. 9 is to commit to the problem process and evolving relationships, and that really, meeting regularly, identifying a point person, committing to be involved, and a few more there. And then finally, disagreements should be anticipated and are really healthy. And so ways you could put that principle into practice is jointly establishing ground rules for the process. How are decisions being made moving forward? And I think developing that safe and comfortable space for discussion really lends to that relationship building piece. So again, I know I went through those really quickly, but I will provide that resource with you just to, think back to things that you could do to build that relationship. And then the community engagement continuum, I wanted to share this from BAMR in 2020. And what I like about this is it shows that relationship and the involvement and the influence lies on a continuum. It's not a black or white thing. Maybe depending on the project or community you're working with, it may look different from one project to the next. But what I like about this table is it shows, what the stakeholder participation goal is here in this first top row, and it ranges as the stakeholder influence on the research increases from left to right. So for example, if you want that stakeholder or community group to inform research, you as the researcher would provide stakeholders with balanced and objective information to assist them in understanding the research. So basically your promise to them is you will keep them informed. Whereas if you look on the opposite side of the table at empower, you as the researcher are assisting these stakeholders in conducting their own research. And your promise to them is you're going to provide advice and assistance as required in line with your decisions for designing, conducting their own research. And then my last little bit here before I get into we get into our panel discussion are some funding opportunities. So this isn't an exhaustive list. And as we build out our community engagement resource hub, I'll continue adding funding opportunities there as well. And I can share a link to that resource in the chat later. These are some Canadian organizations that fund these types of projects. And one I want to point out at the bottom is SPORE, or Strategies for Patient-Oriented Research. And this is funded by CIHR, and it's a very structured way that CIHR has developed to focus on patient-oriented research. And I think I gave Ryan a link to put in the chat for that as well. So just a couple of funding opportunities there. And without further ado, I'm so grateful to have our wonderful panelists joining us today. Clementa Stan, Dr. Edward Cruz, Dr. Paula Van Wyck, Dr. Carolyn Hamm, and Dr. Dora Cavallo-Medved. So thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to turn off my presentation. I'm going to ask our panelists to turn their camera on. Just give me 1 second. My computer is a bit slow today. Okay. So, hi everyone. Thanks for joining. So just to let everyone know how this is going to work, I have 4 questions plus an introduction for each of the panelists, and we're just kind of going to go around in a circle, and we're going to ask 1 question to each panelist at the same time, and hopefully that can build some conversation and discussion. So we will start with Clementa. Could you introduce yourself to us, please?
Yes, absolutely. First, thanks so much for having me. I'm Clementa Stan. I'm a member of the Mental Health and Addictions Patient and Family Advisory Council at Hotel Dieu Grace Healthcare.